Hey, good morning, or at least good morning from New York. Good noon to you, Mary Carty, and to everyone who is joining us. I'm Kelly Hoey. I'm the author of the book, Build Your Dream Network, and this is a crazy little project I called Planet Hoey because of a reader of my book who in a review said it was worth the price of admission to Planet Hoey. So caused me a good laugh, and it seemed like a good name for a video series. Mary Carty, all the way from Ireland. How is everything there today?
Good. The sun is shining. There's a blue sky, so we will take all of it. And the birds are singing. So what's not to like?
Oh, you know what? You got to go with that. Got to go with that. So the folks who don't know, I'm suspecting there's lots of people who know Mary who are watching this, but for people who may be watching and not knowing who the heck is Mary Carty, she is a strategist. An award-winning entrepreneur. She's got a background in arts education and startups, sits on the board of several arts-related organizations, particularly one I want to talk about, Science Gallery International. I need to learn more about that.
Okay.
You work with arts and cultural organizations, and we were having a conversation on Twitter around what we as consumers can do for arts organizations right now. Let's bring anyone who missed that conversation up to speed. You wrote a piece, you talked about what we could do right now. Talk about the need, talk about what we as consumers should be doing.
Okay, so I wrote a piece last week about how we can help creatives survive this calamity. And I was really touched by the amount of really great content, educational, artistic, entertainment, all the things that creatives put out in the first couple of weeks after all of this happened. And I was also conscious that content like that has to be paid for. You know, people are professionals and they execute these things amazingly well. And all this content does not come for free. And just because you pay, we'll say, a small subscription to something like Netflix, it does not represent the amount of money, time, and effort it takes to make this content go around. So my article was literally about how we can pay the artist, how we can support them, and how they can help us support them too. That was the idea. So go to the artist, pay for their album directly. A stream on Spotify, for example, after hundreds of thousands of streams, you might get 50 cents. Whereas if you pay for the album directly on somebody's website, they get the full cut. So I was trying to highlight that small changes in our behavior can make a really big difference to creative and freelancers at the moment. And I suppose that's the same message for any small business or any organization at the moment. Look at where your dollars go because you have power in your pocket, and understand where that money is going. Because if we want to have cultural institutions and artists and freelancers and businesses and local ones at that, we really, really, really need to support them right now.
Yes, I like to say to people, you vote with your wallet every day. And what are you voting for? I found, when I was doing my book tour, people would say to me, and I'm like, don't cry to me about the absence of a local bookstore.
Yeah.
Amazon didn't take that away. We as consumers in our purchasing habits took that away. So we need to decide, when we come out of isolation, what do we want to have out there? That is our choice, and that's up to us. So obviously you hit a nerve with.
Yeah, that conversation kind of blew up all over the place.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the next day, our government here in Ireland announced their, I suppose, response to what's happening. And unfortunately, it wasn't the most well thought out, and it was actually people found it really hurtful and, quite insulting. So above all times, everyone, I think, is galvanized with the idea that creatives, cultural organizations, and small businesses, we really need to pay them somehow.
Yeah. Well, in private conversations, what I've said to people is this: to get out of the situation we're in, this needs to be a spend up economic stimulus, not a trickle down. Any money the governments are putting into the economy right now, if you're putting it in the hands of the people who need to spend it, it is going to come back. Anything else, well, we won't talk about that world of pain.
No.
We're talking about arts organizations.
Yes, we will.
So you've now so that was the first piece you wrote.
Mhm.
It was all around, and we'll retweet these for anybody who didn't catch both of them. So the first one was what we consumers, our spending choices, what we can do. That's nice. You got a Spotify list with your favorite artist. Go and buy their album or albums or on their site. Find out where they get paid more. Go and buy a membership. You're loving walking through the museum or the art gallery because they put their collection online. Why don't you go and buy a membership so that they've got something when they come back, whatever it may be. You've now released part 2 of this, and this is kind of the arts organization, cultural arts. Like, it's not just us, the consumers. Talk about that, and let's dive into what they can be doing.
All right. So for cultural organizations, arts organizations, or any business, if you want your audience and your users to help you, and they do, like your users, your audience, we want to help. We do, as much as we can. But if you don't help us, we can't help you. Yeah. So I focus on a few things. First of all, it's absolutely okay to ask. To ask for support, to ask for a donation, and to tell people why and what you're going to do with that donation and what type of projects or performances or whatever. Or in your business, if you're developing a new product, what are you doing right now? How many people are you employing? How important is your business to you? And if you can make that connection with another person, of course I'm going to support you, but you need to make it easy. So, put your donate button in, tell me, give me the link, make it super easy for me to buy that membership or vouchers, or even, I don't know, I'm going to pay something for some future events because I trust you and you trust me, and you're going to be back after all of this bigger and better than ever, and I'm going to support you. So make it very, very easy for me to pay you.
I want to hit one point. As soon as you said make it easy, I was talking with an entrepreneur the other day, and I'm like, you got to reduce the friction here with the shopping cart. And I would say, I would love you to talk more on this. It's like literally walk through the customer journey. Is there anything that would cause someone, given the enormity of the stress and pressure we're under, to go what are you doing? I don't want to create, where's the friction points to someone putting in their credit card, and get rid of them.
Yeah. So for example, if you are streaming content or you're sharing something on Twitter, make sure that you have a call to action. What do you want the user to do next? And be very clear and communicate around what that next step is. So is that next step becoming a member? Paying for the ticket, telling your friends about the organization? What is the next step? Or, just as importantly, do you want me to sign up to your email newsletter? And you should, because email is a really great way to forge those long-term relationships that you can stay in contact for a very long time, and then tell people what's happening and segment those users into the groups of things they like. So I'm only getting information about the stuff that I want to see and hear about at the right time.
Yeah.
So that's twofold. 1, make it easy to pay. 2, make it easy to sign up. 3, be very, very careful and strategic about that email list and build it with integrity and trust at the heart.
Yeah. Just for anyone who may be catching, this is streaming, as you know, Mary, this is streaming, live streaming to YouTube and also via Periscope onto Twitter. So if someone is suddenly finding this and they're like, what the heck is going on? I'm Kelly Hoey, author of the book, Build Your Dream Network. I'm chatting with strategist and serial entrepreneur, award-winning entrepreneur, Mary Carty. We're talking about arts, cultural organizations, what they can be doing to grow, how their community, their network, so to speak, can grow and survive the current world global health and economic situation that we're in. I also just want to pause and say, this is not just some random conversation that happened on Twitter. Mary and I keep a friendship, I want to say, alive form because of Twitter. And we had the good fortune of meeting in Dublin a number of years ago at a conference then known as Inspire Fest, now known as Future Human, which brought together many fabulous humans and amazing community. So I wanted to just kind of add that in. Just on your last comment on the call to action, if someone's call to action, and I just had this experience the other day with someone's website, if your call to action is please tweet this out, please make sure the links work. Please make sure that there's a full tweet that gets tweeted out. Please make sure in that full tweet you have put your Twitter handle. Oh, good Lord. Anyway.
Test these things, test them out, send them to a few of your friends, send them to some of your colleagues and test them, because you don't want to cause more hassle, because we have enough of it right now.
It's an annoying friction point regardless of the stress of the world, and it's so easy. All right, what else? Let's talk about this. So many organizations have put content out there for free.
Yeah.
Is that the right thing to do?
Free is fine. There is absolutely nothing wrong with putting out free content. And when this whole situation started, it was really great because people were really struggling and trying to figure out how to work from home, raise kids, do schoolwork, all of that sort of thing. So I think the cultural community were really fast off the blocks to help people. And I think the cultural community are really great for that. The only problem is too much free. Where it gets to the point where you need to understand the value of what you're giving your audience. And to have free to build awareness, to keep your brand alive, to share work, to build new audiences, that's great. But at a certain point in that journey, you need to get paid. So to have a strategy around how much is free and how much is paid. Now, tech organizations know about this a lot because we talk about the freemium model and bringing people on with free. And then we have a paid subscription. And that's okay. That's a great model. And in many ways, arts and culture organizations would be good for them to think about that. How much do we give for free? And then how much do we want paid for? Or is there certain types of exclusive content that's really interesting that people will pay for? Or can we talk about different series of events or whatever else that are completely paid for? And they may not be exclusive. They might be a short run, or there could be a longer one. Or do you pay early and get an early bird thing, or what is it? And I think that cultural organizations need to have a think about that, because there are really interesting revenue models and networking and network building opportunities within that whole space if you think it through.
Yeah, and I want to dive into all that, and I want to pick up some of these comments we have from people who are watching. I was just thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking about the Tate Modern, which I absolutely adore. And I always think, when you walk in the silo and there's that big ramp kind of down, and they have like boxes that are sort of like donate what you can. Why can't, with your free content, why can't you have that equivalent of, did you like this? Did you want to leave? Do you want to leave a $1 or $2? You want to leave a little whatever you want? Why? Someone build the visual, drop in a $1 or $2.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like right now, every book matters. That's where we're at, and I think it's a good way of people like to support things that they know was put out there with a good heart. And particularly now, so many particular parents that I know have entertained their little people with a lot of theatre work that's been put out there, really high quality theatre work. And I know a lot of people are stretched for money right now. That's really understandable. But pay a little bit, support, we'll say, people on Twitter, share their links and tell your network. I mean, that's all benefit in kind too, because by helping an organization grow their network, you're literally doing their marketing for them. You're helping their marketing squad. And right now, that's really powerful.
Yeah, let's dive into that more. But I also wanted this, I love this comment, like agree completely around free paid stuff. Do you think organizations have not wanted to ask?
Yes,
I think, because
I think there's a fear around that. Now, you have to realize too in Europe, and I know in the States, that a lot of organizations, cultural organizations, get grants or whatever else by the government or their states, or by arts councils. So there is, at times, there's a fear around, asking for donations and being paid. But I think we're fast moving into a new era where there is a raising awareness that any kind of money that you bring in as an organization is more than a bonus.
Right.
And there's no problem for me to have a non-profit arm of what you do and then a for-profit arm for what you do, or at least even a for-profit part of the program, because at the end of the day, we all have to eat, and all of these organizations, we want them to come back after this is done. So I think that fear is changing. And I think that's a good thing.
Well, and I think organizations who may rely on big foundations and others for money, here's what's going through my mind. There's a cost to that. Like, you know what, you might be saying, oh yeah, but this foundation is going to write a big check. We're going to be fine. These little dollars may help. And the example I'm thinking of is Detroit when they went bankrupt. The big foundations, the big ones based from, automotive industries, took care of particularly the Detroit Museum of Art. Right. I'm probably getting the name wrong, but anyway, the kind of the waterfall effect of that was there was now no money out of that foundation for anything else.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurs, small business who had in the past been able to tap some of this foundational money were not able, that completely dried up for them because it went to one thing, saving the art gallery, which it should have. They knew that they needed that cornerstone, and which is interesting. They knew they needed that cornerstone of an amazing museum collection to drive business, and not just culture, but to drive business and activity in the city, which is important. Let's drive into this community. Marianne Pierce, yay, good morning, Marianne, has been on this. Let's talk about, because I think this also hits in the revenue model. We talked about this before we jumped on air, Mary, the importance of building the business and the community on the arts organization's own website.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, that's really important. So when I talk to clients about this in any sector, what I say is your website is your real estate. It belongs to you. It's yours. Everything you put there is yours. You control it. You own it. It's yours. And what I mean by that is your website is not going to fall down tomorrow because, I don't know, Facebook decides that everybody has to pay to post. And right now, that's really how it is. You're not going to get much traction on a lot of these social media platforms now without paying to get a boost, right? So if you try and think about your website as your central repository, and you bring people back to that website over and over again, and that is your central place, then you can build community, you can sell, you can have comments, you can do all sorts of stuff, and it belongs to you. And nobody changes the rules. It's great to use other platforms to drive traffic to your website and to bring people there and build a community, everywhere else. But your bottom line should always be bringing people back to your website because that is yours.
Yeah, I just had sort of this visual of, since of course we have so many of them in North America, where you may go to a food chain, a restaurant, that they have their menu as you're driving in your car. So kind of think about Facebook, think about some of these sites like that. Someone drives in, oh, this is interesting. They've got all of this. Oh, let me go park my car and go inside. Like, you don't want someone just ordering off that menu outside and driving off, and you don't get the full advantage of them being there. I often say to businesses, are you building your business or Facebook's business? What are you doing?
Yeah, and the thing is, you need to be deliberate about that. And it's good to be on other places because you build audience that way, but you need to build your own community and you need to build your own audience. And then you need to bring that community and audience back to your own place. It's like having a house party. You know, you meet all these people,
Yeah.
and then you invite them back, and that community gets stronger and better. I know of businesses that I've worked with who their whole business literally depended on SEO. And when algorithms changed, they literally fell off the face of the planet. And they didn't do enough with branding and other things to actually keep that core business alive. So you need to do that. So build your own business, build it on your own platform, make your own website, do your own things. They belong to you. They don't belong to anyone else.
And then gets back to and Marianne's comment, you know, you make content shareable. So make it easy for other people to, you know, build your business for you, because you're creating really great shareable, you know, Instagrammable, TikTokable, whatever content.
Yeah.
That they're going to say to their communities, and people are going to discover it because someone else has posted it out there. Actually, let's chat a little bit about SEO, because that is something else. I'm saying sometimes that old tech, so to speak, she says with a bit of sarcasm, old tech is good tech. What are some things? And what I want to talk about is Pinterest too. I mean, some of these arts organizations, in terms of using that, what I've learned and discovered is after Google and YouTube, number 3 search engine is Pinterest.
Yeah. What's interesting is around things like visual search. And as time moves on and voice becomes more and more important, because we all have Alexa and stuff like that, voice search and visual search. So if you think about it, you can be found in multiple different ways. And if you are a very creative, culturally rich, visually rich organization, absolutely, you should have boards on Pinterest, because God only knows why people are searching for those images. It could be, I don't know, historical, research, wedding, God only knows. And the thing is, you can be the inspiration point for so many of those searches. So absolutely, get your boards up, figure out what people are interested in. It can be really culturally engaging too. Why not? Do your own, I don't know, like where's Wally on Pinterest nearly, you know? What's the cool things in your organization this week? Or, you know, what's the newest piece that you just collected? How can you use Pinterest in an interesting way that reflects, this is really important, that reflects your values? That's the thing. Because we can use all of these platforms that we want to, but they have to reflect our values and our mission as an organization. And that's really important.
And what you're hitting on it too is like you said, I love it. We said, you know, where's Wally? Is like, what is your audience searching for? Not what you want to give them. What are they searching for? And putting material online on some of these platforms like Pinterest in that way of what's a mom who's looking to entertain her kids with something other than Netflix? You know?
And I mean, there are so many things in terms of, I'm thinking about the education process and the education curatorial parts of arts organizations, that they work so hard to get that education out and understanding out. And if you think that Pinterest could easily be, for example, one avenue that you could explore, that would provide that educational space and outreach, because we always talk about outreach, but then you have to think about inreach. You know, the people out there are going to find the thing, and then what do they do after they find the thing? So it's a good one, really, really good one, and important for people to understand. So visual search, audio search.
Exactly. And yes, and part of the visual search, I also want to say is, you know, when you're putting videos up, unfortunately, we're not doing it with this one. How can you put video up with that is viewable by the hearing impaired, and how that adds to your kind of discoverability, because you know, YouTube and Google is now indexing all of those words, not just your title and the tags you've put on it. So
absolutely.
Let's talk. You mentioned in your recent post, let's go back to that, The law firm. Tell me about what this law firm did in terms of, because this is also when you talk about how we can be, how cultural organizations can be engaging, they can be doing private shows. Talk about that.
Absolutely. I wanted to share some experiences or some new things that came up this week around when we're all at home. All of us are at home. We're all trying to navigate working from home. What can organizations do with their own audiences to actually drive new experiences? Okay, so this law firm invited an orchestra to actually come around and in their own homes and play a set for all their workers at home. So it's so beautiful if you imagine every person in that orchestra playing from home to an audience of employees working from home. And they got paid for it. So that's an arts organization partnering up with a supporter that they already had to do something beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Another one, there's a theatre festival actually in New York, the Williamstown Festival. And they didn't want to cancel. I can completely understand that. Work in production, people wanting to get paid, 7 plays to go on stage, and they partnered with Audible. So now 7 productions are going to be streamed from development to rehearsal to staging on Audible in June, the whole thing, and everyone got paid.
So I'm stopping you on there, and why I did the big wow, because the fact that they're doing all the steps up to not just the final production.
Yes.
That is like that. I was excited about the fact that, because you and I were chatting about, I love old radio plays. Like I absolutely love those. The Shadow. Anyway, the thought that you're going to get the whole artistic, like you're going to go through the whole process to the final, and you can get this on Audible. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. One of the things that I tell cultural organizations a lot is that so many of us don't feel we are artistic or creative or whatever else. And when we see the final thing, be it your book, Kelly, or the play or whatever it might be, it's like alchemy to the rest of us. We don't understand how it was there. We are so appreciative of the fact that we can see it or feel it or pick it up or watch it on TV. But we really want to understand what happens in the background to make that happen. And I think this is a massive opportunity for organizations to open up, the back room, behind the scenes, to actually show and document and teach the process. I know a painter, actually, who puts all his sketchbooks, and I love artist sketchbooks, they're so interesting. And as he finishes each notebook, he puts it up as an app, and you can buy the app, and you can flick through all the pages, and you can actually collect the digital format of all his notebooks. And I just think that's genius, and I think it's one of the most beautiful things ever.
Well, you sort of like seeing the process. You see, like thinking of someone who spoiled alert, not a spoiler alert, a spoiler alert. One of the last things I did when we were still going to productions was go to the Met, and the Metropolitan Opera in New York. I mean, first of all, it's just walking in that building is an experience. And I had seats that were right next. I mean, I probably could have swatted the conductor on the back of the head. I was that, like literally that row. And the sets, and you can just, because of the enormity of the building and the enormity of the production, you can kind of sort of think, okay, there's a lot of people who have to put this on. I probably can't even get the number right, how many it takes to put on. So to actually be able to see what you're paying for, there's that, like what your final ticket price actually represents as part of a big production, but also for kids, for someone who's right now thinking, what's my career? What's my possibility to actually see like this be revealed, that there is more in the world for them to do than, here's the 3 possibilities for your career. Here's the 3 possibilities for your skill set. You can now see, and this is all revealed. What an extraordinary gift.
Yeah, and I think that we really underestimate the amount of people and talent that it takes to create so many things. And now we have an opportunity to open that up and actually show and document. And a really good Irish example actually of that, Mark O'Brien is the director of Access Art Centre. And they're having these really wonderful access chats at the moment. And he's talking to all the people in the back office, actors, directors, lighting people, all sorts. And he's bringing in that whole creative community, because if you think about it, in the arts, what happens is a whole team of people will scale up to make something, and then it will scale back down again, and it will scale up again. So it's enormous. And the reach of that community then into all other sectors that drives our economy is massive. So I think having those types of experiences and making them available and making them visible, I think that's really lovely.
Yes, and I'm so glad you highlighted this law firm. I mentioned in my podcast this week. Funny, also another law firm, and they had hired my wonderful friends. People may have seen the conversation I had with Casey Aaron Clark and Julie Fogg, who are the founders of Vital Voice, and a law firm hired them to do like a Broadway style variety show. And like hired them, as in paid them. Let's stress that for everybody. And you gotta pay the artist, and these companies is the team building. If you are people sort of like, oh my God, when you want to work from home, there's a lot of people struggling with working from home because of the routine, and they're used to going to the office, and they're used to the collegiality and the camaraderie and the collaboration from being in an office environment. And how do you keep that team cohesion? Well, maybe some of these things and leveraging the arts to do that. Love this, Marianne chiming in again. Yes. It's another,
It is a huge draw for funders, absolutely. I think anytime you can facilitate that wow moment or that understanding between people and organizations, and where we can break down barriers and forge connections, that's really, really powerful. And that's what the arts are really good at doing. We're really good at understanding and documenting and highlighting and talking about and pointing to, and also reflecting inward and putting that out there for us to understand how we feel and how we're doing in the world at the moment, and how we communicate all those things. So, I mean, for me, what I'm really passionate about, I suppose, is to understand and teach people that creative people they're incredible problem solvers, like they deal with looking after really finite resources all the time, and they create the most incredible things from often very tight resources. And they're team builders and team players. So, why wouldn't you pay them and hire them?
Right.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Right. Exactly. You hire other people to come in and talk to you about team building and collegiality and collaboration. Why not, hire a creative person, to show that how to do this by presenting their art. And I'm just also thinking out loud, the number of emails that I'm getting from particularly professional services organizations, not exclusively lawyers. As a former lawyer, I have to point that out. But, it's like, I don't need another COVID-19 and webinar. You know what? Why not use, thinking of those types of businesses, why not use your ability to convene and pull in community? Why don't you do something for your clients because of your direct access to some of these arts organizations? And why don't you offer them something that they can't otherwise get? Or you've because like I said, we can find endless Google searches and find information on COVID-19. Why don't you give me something I can't get, which is an orchestra giving me a Sunday night private performance, or whatever. Like, how amazing is that? Yeah, phenomenal. What else should we be thinking about, Mary, with all of this? What other message you want to leave or drive home to cultural organizations in particular?
I think that cultural organizations need to understand, and I think they have to stand in their own power. They have a lot of network. They have a huge amount of stakeholders. They've already built really strong communities. And I think now it's about being very strategic and thoughtful about how they're going to make good and exploit those conversations and those relationships, because they're there. And like every other crisis in life, so many of us, when we're in shock and worried, okay, it's enough to put one foot in front of the other. Of course it is. But at a certain point, you need to communicate and talk to people and reach out. And now is the time to reach out, to communicate, to tell people what you're doing, what are your struggles, how you plan to survive, and all the good, positive forward planning that you're doing now. So, okay, we can't be together right now, but here are the things that we're suggesting. We're sorry we had to pull this particular event. That's okay. But here are the things we're going to do now. And here is, here's the things we want you to help us with. And I think that's really powerful, because by reaching out and by forming even stronger communities and helping us pay you, there is a chance that we'll all get through this together, and maybe a hell of a lot better than what we were doing before.
Let's hope so. Hope so. I'm like generating all sorts of other little ideas, but you and I can talk about those, and you can put them in another piece.
Will do.
Come back here. If people want to talk to you more about this subject, we of course will post the links to your 2 articles. But if people want to find you, we put your Twitter account. Anywhere else that they can find you? Anything else they should know about you before we?
Yeah, jump on Twitter at Mary Carty. I'll be definitely speaking about that for the next while. This conversation has blown up again. And on LinkedIn. And if you need any help, support or advice, I'm here, and reach out, because that's how we all get better. We network and we communicate and we help each other.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary. If people don't realize, I was up at 5:30 a.m. New York trying to get judged up for Mary. So you always worth waking up early to get on camera with, and let's do this again soon. I just so love talking with you.
All right. Thanks for everything, and see you soon.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for showing up.
Thanks, everyone.